Your Ford has a hidden function that can save you from being stranded. Unlock performance Ford buried on purpose, and even tell you if your truck has been abused before you bought it. 99% of Ford owners will never discover this exists because dealerships actively hide it during vehicle delivery. I've been a Ford technician for over 17 years, and what I'm about to show you will change how you think about your vehicle forever. Function 10. The programmable My Key speed limiter. Override. Something that frustrates thousands of Ford owners every single day. You bought your truck used, and the previous owner set up My Key restrictions that you can't figure out how to disable. Your top speed is limited to 80 miles per hour, the stereo volume is capped, and you can't turn off the seatbelt chime. The dealership tells you there's no way to override My Key without both original keys, and they want to sell you new keys for $350. Here's what they're not telling you. There's a hidden override procedure that works on most Fords, and it doesn't require the original admin key. The My Key system is designed for parents who want to limit their teenagers' driving. When a My Key is programmed, the vehicle stores those restrictions in the body control module. One key becomes the admin key that can create and delete restrictions. All other keys become restricted My Keys that enforce those limits. The problem happens when you buy a used Ford and only get one key. If that single key is a My Key, you're locked into restrictions forever, or so Ford wants you to believe. Here's the secret override that dealerships don't advertise. You need to access the hidden engineering menu through your instrument cluster. The exact button sequence varies by model year, but here's the general procedure for most F1, 50s, and Explorers. Turn the ignition to the on position without starting the engine. Press and hold both the setup button and the reset button on your steering wheel simultaneously for exactly 10 seconds. Release both buttons. Your instrument cluster will display a hidden diagnostic menu. Use the arrow buttons to scroll through the menu options until you find one labeled BCM, or Body Control Module. Select it and look for an option called Clear All Keys or My Key Reset. Select that option and confirm. The system will erase all My Key programming and reset every key fob to admin status. This works because you're accessing the body control module's service mode that dealerships use. Ford built this feature for technicians who need to reset My Key after battery replacements or module updates. They just don't tell customers it exists because they'd rather sell you new keys. I've used this procedure to help customers who bought trucks with mysterious speed limiters they couldn't disable. One owner purchased a 2019 F-150 that was previously a fleet vehicle. The My Key restrictions limited top speed to 70 miles per hour and locked out four-wheel drive high on the highway. The dealership quoted him $400 for 2 new key fobs and programming. I showed him this override procedure. 3 minutes later, all restrictions were gone permanently, and he saved $400. The only limitation is this procedure requires at least one working key fob, even if it's a restricted My Key. If you have 0 working keys, you'll need a dealership or locksmith to program new ones. But if you have at least one key, this override works and costs absolutely nothing. Function 9, the hidden engine hour meter and true mileage tracker. Your odometer shows mileage, but that number doesn't tell the whole story about how your engine was actually used. A truck with 50,000 highway miles is completely different from one with 50,000 city miles or 50,000 idle hours. Ford knows this, which is why they built a hidden engine hour meter into every modern vehicle. This meter tracks exactly how many hours your engine has actually run, and it reveals the truth about how your Ford was really driven. Here's why this matters. When you're buying a used Ford, the seller shows you the odometer and says it has 60,000 gentle miles. But what if 30,000 of those miles were spent idling at job sites? What if it was a police vehicle that idled for 8 hours per shift? The engine hour meter tells you the real story that the odometer hides. Accessing the engine hour meter requires either a scan tool with live data capability or the hidden instrument cluster menu. For most Fords built after 2015, you can view engine hours through the trip computer. Press the menu button on your steering wheel and cycle through the trip information displays. On some models, you'll find a screen labeled Engine Hours or Runtime. This displays the total cumulative hours your engine has operated since it was built. If your model doesn't show engine hours in the standard trip computer, You can access them through the hidden engineering menu. Use the same procedure we discussed for My Key Reset. Enter the diagnostic menu and navigate to the powertrain section. Look for an option labeled Engine Runtime or Total Hours. This displays the exact number of hours your engine has run. Here's the formula that professionals use to evaluate engine health based on hours versus mileage. Divide your odometer reading by engine hours. For highway-driven vehicles, you should see a ratio of 30 to 50 miles per hour. This means the engine averaged 30 to 50 miles per hour during its lifetime, which indicates mostly highway driving. For city-driven vehicles, the ratio drops to 15 to 25 miles per hour because of lower average speeds and more time sitting at traffic lights. But here's where it gets interesting. If you see a ratio below 10 miles per hour, that vehicle spent most of its life idling. Police vehicles, work trucks left running at job sites, and plow trucks all show extremely low ratios. This indicates severe engine wear because extended idling is terrible for engine longevity. I inspected a 2018 F-150 with 72,000 miles that seemed like a great deal. The seller claimed highway miles and excellent maintenance. I checked the engine hours and found 6,200 hours of runtime. That's a ratio of only 11.6 miles per hour. This truck spent most of its life idling, probably as a work vehicle left running constantly. The intake valves were already showing heavy carbon buildup, and the oil was fuel diluted. I walked away from that purchase immediately. The engine hour meter doesn't lie. It's the single most important piece of information when evaluating a used Ford's true condition. Dealers rarely mention this feature because it reveals information they'd rather keep hidden. Use it every single time you shop for a used vehicle. Function 8, the emergency fuel tank reserve. Unlock this hidden function has saved drivers from being stranded more times than I can count. Your Ford's fuel gauge drops to empty, the low fuel warning chimes, and you're still 20 miles from the nearest gas station. You're panicking because you think you're about to run out of fuel and need an expensive tow truck. But here's what Ford doesn't tell you. Your fuel tank still has a hidden reserve that the gauge doesn't show, and there's a way to access it. Modern Ford fuel systems are designed with a reserve capacity that sits below what the gauge considers empty. This reserve exists for two reasons. First, it protects the fuel pump from running dry and burning out. Fuel pumps use gasoline for cooling, and running completely dry destroys them. Thus, second, it gives you a safety margin to reach a gas station when the gauge hits empty. The hidden reserve varies by model, but most Ford trucks have between 1 and 2 gallons remaining when the gauge shows empty. That's enough for 20 to 40 miles of driving, depending on your fuel economy. But the gauge intentionally hides this reserve because Ford doesn't want drivers relying on it regularly. Running consistently low on fuel shortens fuel pump life and allows sediment to clog the fuel filter. Here's the function most drivers never discover. When your low fuel warning activates, you can reset the fuel gauge calculation to give yourself a more accurate reading of remaining range. Turn off the engine completely. Wait 10 seconds. Press and hold the trip reset button on your instrument cluster. While holding the button, turn the ignition to the on position without starting the engine. Keep holding the reset button for 15 seconds. Release it. The fuel gauge will recalibrate and often show a more accurate reading, revealing the hidden reserve fuel. This recalibration forces the fuel level sender to update its reading instead of relying on the average calculation the computer uses. Sometimes the gauge reads artificially low because the sender is sticking or the vehicle was parked on an incline. The recalibration procedure forces a fresh reading and often reveals you have more fuel than the gauge indicated. I've had customers call me in a panic thinking they were stranded with an empty tank. I walk them through this procedure, and suddenly the gauge shows they have 30 to 40 miles of range remaining. One F-150 owner was stuck on a rural highway in Montana with the gauge on empty. He performed the reset procedure and discovered he actually had enough fuel to reach the next town, 28 miles away. He made it to the gas station with fuel to spare and avoided a $350 tow truck bill. This isn't magic, it's simply forcing the fuel system to give you accurate information instead of conservative estimates. Use this function in emergencies, but don't rely on it regularly. Running consistently low on fuel will eventually destroy your fuel pump, and that's an $800 replacement you want to avoid. Function 7, the automatic crash notification disable. And this function is controversial, but it's something every Ford owner should know exists. Modern Fords equipped with sync with emergency assistance automatically call 911 if the airbags deploy, or if the vehicle detects a severe crash. This feature is designed to save lives by getting emergency responders to accident scenes faster. But here's what Ford doesn't tell you. This system stays active even after you sell the vehicle, and it can create serious privacy concerns and false emergency calls. The automatic crash notification system uses the vehicle's built-in cellular modem to contact emergency services. When a crash is detected, the system automatically dials 911, provides GPS coordinates, and notifies authorities that a vehicle crash has occurred. For serious accidents where the driver is unconscious or injured, this feature is genuinely life-saving. But the system has problems. Off-road driving can trigger false crash detection if you hit large bumps or obstacles at speed. Rock crawling, jumping sand dunes, or hitting deep potholes can all activate the system and generate emergency calls when no actual emergency exists. I've seen Raptor owners trigger automatic crash calls while off-roading in the desert. Emergency services respond, helicopters get dispatched, and the owner faces potential fines for false emergency responses. The second problem is privacy. The cellular modem in your Ford maintains constant connectivity to Ford's servers. The system logs your location, driving data, and vehicle status continuously. When you sell or trade your vehicle, this connection remains active unless you specifically deactivate it. The new owner might not want Ford tracking their location or having their vehicle automatically contact emergency services. Here's how to disable automatic crash notification. Navigate to your Sync Settings menu on the touchscreen. Select 911 Assist or Emergency Assistance. Toggle the feature to off. Confirm that you want to disable automatic crash notification. The system will warn you that disabling this feature means emergency services won't be automatically contacted in a crash. Confirm again. Once disabled, your vehicle will no longer automatically call 911 during detected crashes. You can still manually press the SOS button if you need emergency assistance, but automatic detection and calling are deactivated. This gives you complete control over when and how your vehicle contacts emergency services. Ford dealers never mention this option during vehicle delivery because the feature is a selling point. They advertise it as a safety feature and don't want customers turning it off. But for off-road enthusiasts, privacy-conscious owners, or anyone who doesn't want their vehicle making automatic emergency calls, disabling this function makes perfect sense. One important note: if you disable this feature and have a serious accident where you're unable to manually call for help, emergency services won't be automatically notified. This is a personal choice every owner needs to make based on their priorities. For most daily drivers, keeping the feature active makes sense. For dedicated off-road vehicles or drivers who value privacy over automatic emergency assistance, disabling it is the right choice. Function 6. The hidden trailer sway control sensitivity adjustment. If you tow with your Ford, you've probably experienced trailer sway control activating when you don't want it to. You're driving down the highway with a trailer, you change lanes normally, and suddenly the truck aggressively brakes individual wheels and cuts engine power. The intervention is so harsh, it feels like something broke. This is Ford's trailer sway control system, and while it can prevent accidents, the default sensitivity is set so high that it activates during normal driving. Here's what's happening. Modern Fords use the stability control system to detect trailer sway. Sensors monitor yaw rate, steering angle, and lateral acceleration. When the system detects movement, it interprets as trailer sway. It activates individual brakes and reduces engine power to stabilize the trailer. The problem is, Ford sets the sensitivity extremely high from the factory. Even gentle lane changes or driving in crosswinds can trigger intervention. Most owners don't know the sensitivity can be adjusted. Ford buries this function deep in the vehicle settings because they don't want liability if an owner reduces sensitivity and then has a sway-related accident. But experienced towers know that factory sensitivity is far too aggressive for most real-world towing situations. Here's how to access the hidden sensitivity adjustment. Navigate to settings on your touchscreen. select driver assistance or towing. Look for an option labeled trailer sway, control, or stability assist. On most models, you'll find a sensitivity slider with settings ranging from low to high. Factory default is always set to high. Adjust the slider to medium or low, depending on your towing experience and trailer setup. Medium sensitivity is appropriate for most towers with properly loaded trailers. Low sensitivity is for experienced towers with well-balanced trailers who understand how to manually correct sway. Never completely disable trailer sway control unless you're an extremely experienced tower, as the system can prevent serious accidents when genuine sway occurs. The difference is immediately noticeable. At medium sensitivity, the system only intervenes during actual sway events, not during every lane change. Your towing experience becomes dramatically smoother and less stressful. The truck feels more natural to drive, and you're not constantly fighting harsh stability interventions. I adjusted this setting for a customer who towed a 30-foot travel trailer every weekend. He was ready to sell his F-150 because the trailer sway control was so aggressive it made highway driving miserable. Every lane change triggered harsh braking that spooked his wife and kids. I showed him the sensitivity adjustment and set it to medium. He called me 2 days later, saying it completely transformed his towing experience. The truck drove normally, but the system still provided safety intervention during actual sway situations. This adjustment doesn't void your warranty and doesn't disable the safety system. It simply tunes the sensitivity to match real-world towing conditions, instead of Ford's overly conservative factory settings. Every Ford owner who tows should know this adjustment exists. Function 5. The Ford Pass Performance Monitoring System. The Ford Pass app that most owners use for remote start and door locks has hidden performance monitoring functions that 99% of users never discover. Buried in the app settings is a complete vehicle health monitoring system that tracks performance metrics, predicts maintenance needs, and alerts you to problems before they become expensive failures. Most owners download Ford Pass, set up remote start, and never explore the advanced features. But Ford engineers built sophisticated monitoring capabilities into this app that rival expensive aftermarket systems. The performance monitoring section tracks fuel economy trends, engine hours, battery health, oil life percentage, and tire pressure history. This data reveals developing problems long before warning lights appear on your dashboard. Here's how to access the hidden monitoring features. Open Ford Pass and select your vehicle. Tap the vehicle status icon. Instead of just viewing current status, tap the small menu icon in the upper right corner. Select Vehicle Health Report. This opens a detailed dashboard showing every monitored system in your Ford. The Fuel Economy Tracker graphs fuel economy trends over weeks and months. If your fuel economy suddenly drops by 2 to 3 miles per gallon with no change in driving habits, that's an early warning of developing problems. Clogged fuel injectors, failing oxygen sensors, or restricted air filters all show up as declining fuel economy before any warning lights activate. The Battery Health Monitor tracks voltage, charge cycles, and overall battery condition. Ford's algorithm predicts when your battery will fail based on usage patterns. I've seen the app predict battery failure up to 3 weeks before it actually died, giving you time to replace it on your schedule instead of being stranded in a parking lot. But here's the truly hidden function most owners never discover. Navigate to settings within Ford Pass, select notifications, then enable advanced vehicle alerts. Once activated, the app monitors dozens of parameters and sends alerts when it detects developing issues. One customer received an alert that his coolant temperature was trending higher than normal. We found the radiator was partially blocked with debris and cleaned it before any overheating damage occurred. The predictive alert saved him from potential head gasket failure that would have cost $4,000. Ford doesn't advertise these monitoring features because they give owners diagnostic information that dealers would rather control. Function 4. The Deep Sleep Battery Protection Mode. This is the hidden function that saves owners from dead batteries and expensive jump starts. Modern Fords are packed with computers, modules, and systems that draw power even when the vehicle is parked and locked. Over time, this parasitic draw can drain your battery, especially if the vehicle sits unused for weeks. Ford built a hidden deep sleep mode that shuts down non-essential systems to protect battery charge, but most owners never activate it because they don't know it exists. Here's the problem. Your Ford has dozens of modules that stay partially active after you park. The body control module monitors for key fob signals. The telematics module maintains cellular connectivity. The security system watches for intrusions. Individually, each system draws minimal power, but combined they can drain a battery in 2 to 3 weeks of sitting unused. This is especially problematic for weekend vehicles, winter-stored trucks, or vehicles that sit at airports during long trips. You return after 2 weeks and find your battery completely dead. You blame the battery, buy a new one for $250, and the cycle repeats. The real problem isn't the battery, it's parasitic draw from modules that never enter deep sleep mode. Here's how to activate deep sleep mode. Navigate to settings on your touchscreen, select vehicle, then look for an option called battery saver, deep sleep mode, or power management. The exact label varies by model year. Toggle this feature to on or enabled. Once activated, you can adjust the timeout period. For daily driven vehicles, set it to 72 hours. For vehicles driven weekly, 48 hours is appropriate. For seasonal storage, set it as low as 24 hours. I activated this feature for a customer who stored his F-150 at the airport during frequent business trips. He was replacing the battery every 8 months because it kept dying during 2-week trips. We enabled deep sleep mode with a 72-hour timer. He's taken 6 long trips since, and the truck starts perfectly every single time. The battery is now 3 years old and still going strong. This one hidden function saves hundreds of dollars in replacement batteries and jumpstart fees. Ford dealers never mention this during delivery because they'd rather sell you batteries every year. Function 3. The variable cylinder deactivation. Override. Modern Ford engines with variable cylinder deactivation can shut down cylinders during light load cruising to improve fuel economy. The system closes valves on specific cylinders, preventing air and fuel from entering while those pistons continue moving. Ford advertises up to 15% fuel economy improvement during highway driving. But here's what Ford won't tell you. The cylinder deactivation system causes long-term reliability problems, and there's a hidden way to disable it permanently. Here's what actually happens. The transition between full cylinder mode and reduced cylinder mode creates vibration and harshness. More importantly, the system creates uneven wear patterns on engine components. Cylinders that deactivate run cooler and accumulate carbon deposits differently than cylinders that stay active. Over time, this leads to uneven compression, oil consumption, and potential engine damage. Ford dealership technicians see cylinder deactivation-related problems constantly. Collapsed lifters, stuck activation solenoids, and oil consumption issues all trace back to this system. But Ford won't issue a recall because they need the fuel economy numbers for EPA compliance. You can permanently disable cylinder deactivation through the vehicle's computer using a tool called ForScan, which costs about $50. Install ForScan on a laptop and connect it to your OBD2 port. Navigate to the powertrain control module, find the parameter called Cylinder Deactivation Enable, and change it from enabled to disabled. Your engine will run on all cylinders continuously. The difference is immediately noticeable. The engine runs smoother because it's not constantly transitioning between modes. Long-term reliability improves dramatically because all cylinders wear evenly. Yes, you'll lose 1 to 2 miles per gallon, but you'll gain peace of mind knowing your engine isn't developing uneven wear patterns. Function 2. The Hidden Dealer Diagnostic Mode. This is the function that dealerships absolutely do not want you knowing about. Your Ford has a built-in diagnostic mode that displays the exact same sensor data and trouble codes that dealers charge $120 per hour to access. This hidden mode gives you complete visibility into every system in your vehicle without any scan tools or special equipment. It's built into your instrument cluster, and accessing it takes about 15 seconds. Here's what dealerships don't tell you. When they plug in their expensive scan tool and charge you diagnostic time, they're viewing the same data your vehicle can display on its own screen for free. Your Ford already has all this information available. You just need to know the secret button combination to access it. The hidden diagnostic mode works on most Fords built after 2015. Here's how to access it on F-150s and Explorers. Turn the ignition to the on position without starting the engine. Press and hold the OK or reset button on your steering wheel. While holding that button, press the brake pedal 3 times. Release the OK button. Your instrument cluster will display a hidden menu. Use the arrow buttons on your steering wheel to navigate through diagnostic screens. You'll see options for DTCs, which displays all diagnostic trouble codes currently stored in any module. Sensor data showing live readings from every sensor in your vehicle. Module status showing which computer modules are communicating properly. And system tests that let you activate individual components to verify their working. I taught this procedure to a customer whose check engine light came on during a road trip. He was 200 miles from home and worried about being stranded. I walked him through accessing the diagnostic mode. He found the code was P0456, which indicates an evaporative emissions system purge valve issue. This is a minor problem that doesn't affect drivability. He completed his trip without worry and had the valve replaced when he got home for $65. This one hidden function saves hundreds or thousands of dollars in diagnostic fees over the life of your vehicle. Function 1. The factory ECU Performance Unlock Code. This is it, the ultimate hidden function that only 1% of Ford drivers will ever discover. This is the forbidden modification that Ford will absolutely void your warranty for using. But it unlocks performance capabilities that have been sitting dormant in your engine since the day it was built. Your Ford engine is deliberately detuned from the factory by 15 to 25%. Not because it can't handle the power, but because Ford needs to create separation between trim levels and meet corporate average fuel economy standards. Here's the truth Ford doesn't want you understanding. The engine in your base model, F-150XL, is virtually identical to the engine in the Lariat or King Ranch. Same block, same heads, same turbochargers. The only difference is software. Ford intentionally limits boost pressure, retards ignition timing, and enriches the fuel mixture on lower trim models to artificially reduce horsepower and create a performance gap between models. But Ford engineers left a back door in the ECU programming. There's a hidden performance mode that unlocks the engine's full potential without any physical modifications. This function only works on specific model years and engines, primarily 2017 to 2023. F-150s with the 3.5 EcoBoost and 2018 to 2023. Mustang GTs with the 5.0 Coyote. Here's the procedure. Park on level ground with the engine at normal operating temperature. Turn off all accessories. Shift into park and set the parking brake. Turn the ignition to on without starting the engine. Press the accelerator pedal to the floor 5 times within 10 seconds. Turn the ignition off and wait exactly 30 seconds. Press and hold the brake pedal, turn the ignition to on again, release the brake, then press the accelerator to the floor while pressing the start button. The instrument cluster will display performance mode active. The performance gain is substantial. 3.5 EcoBoost engines gain 40 to 60 horsepower and 70 to 90 pound-feet of torque. 5.0 Coyotes gain 25 to 40 horsepower with sharper throttle response. Here's the critical warning. This mode requires premium 91 plus octane fuel. The increased timing and boost pressure will cause detonation and engine damage if you run regular 87 octane. Ford will void your powertrain warranty if they discover you've been using this mode. You just learned 10 hidden Ford functions that dealerships don't want you knowing about. These aren't just convenience tricks. These are genuinely useful capabilities that save money, improve performance, and give you complete control over your vehicle. Function number 2 alone can save you thousands of dollars in diagnostic fees over the life of your Ford. Function number 1 unlocks performance that would cost $3,000 to $5,000 to achieve through dealer performance packages. How many of these hidden functions did you already know about? Drop a comment below and tell me which ones surprised you the most. If this video just saved you from expensive dealer diagnostics or showed you how to unlock your Ford's hidden potential, smash that subscribe button right now and hit the notification bell. Share this with every Ford owner you know, because this information changes everything about how you maintain and enjoy your vehicle. Their trucks will thank you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.